Yo, I'm Literal, aka Mega Buzz. In today's video, we're looking at Flygon EX with that Brute Bonnet Poison package, kind of a hit and run poison package type style deck here, and I'm really excited to be showcasing today's deck. I think Flygon EX is a severely underrated card, and I've always kind of had a soft spot for Flygon. When I played through Ruby as a kid, I really liked using Flygon as my dragon type Pokemon kind of throughout the game over like Salamence and stuff like that. I always thought just Flygon looked really cool. So let's jump right in to that deck list. Already here at that deck list. But before we jump into the deck list, I'm gonna give a huge shout out to Beep from the Mega Blitz Poke Cove Discord, which you can join as well by just scrolling down in the description, clicking on that link, and being a part of it. Something I really like to do with the community is they kind of send me different deck list ideas, or we kind of just discuss them in the Discord. And of course, with permission, I do sometimes like to make videos about them, just because I like to really be able to showcase that people can really have some creative ideas with their deck building abilities. And Beep from the Discord is one of those people, really just kind of showcasing the hit and run style, that poison package with the Flygon EX. So getting into the deck list here, we have that Flygon EX stage 2, 310 HP. We're only going to be using the first attack with this deck here, that reversing Storm for 1 fighting energy, 130 damage. You may switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So also pairing that with the Pecharunt Brute Bonnet Poison package. That Brute Bonnet has ability Toxic Powder once during your turn. If it has a ancient capsule attached, you can make both active Pokemon poisoned. And then of course you pair that with the Pecharunt with the ability Toxic Subjugation. As long as Pokemon's in the active spot, you put 5 more damage counters on your opponent's poison Pokemon during Pokemon checkup. Able to get that to 7 damage counters by playing the Perilous Jungle during Pokemon checkup. Put 2 more damage counters on each poisoned non-dark type Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So pretty strong there, being able to get that 7 damage counters. Now, this is a post-rotation list, so no Raiden, Hisuian, Sneasler. But if you really wanted to, you could play it in this list until it rotates. But Beep, much like myself, has really been kind of just playing post-rotation lists, as we are both really looking forward to rotation. Now, something else to really make this deck just kind of hit a little bit harder is you can also Toxic Powder before into the Pecharunt, before you switch into the Pecharunt or anything like that, by having the Binding Mochi attached to our Flygon EX here, 130 damage, but if it's poisoned with that Toxic Powder, have the Binding Mochi attached, attacks used by poison Pokemon. This card's attached to do 40 more damage to the opponent's active Pokemon, so hit for 170, then switch into the Pecharunt. You're going to be doing, what would that be? It would be plus 50 more, so we're looking at 220, plus 2 more from the Perilous Jungle. We're looking at 250, really able to handle just about any basic EX Pokemon kind of in the format, which is pretty crazy. Now, we can also Reversing Storm into our Mimikyu here with that ability Safeguard, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks of your opponent's Pokemon EX and Pokemon V, so they just can't take a knockout. Same reason for the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, the ability Cornerstone Stance, prevent all damage from attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. Demolish is also a pretty helpful attack in a pinch, 140, and this attack's damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance or any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So really helpful to kind of deal with just different problems this deck might run into. And then we have the Latias EX in there for that free retreat out of our Pecharunt or our Brute Bonnet or the Mimikyu or even Latias or Fezandipiti or the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon like that. Fezandipiti for flip the script for Arven to be able to find all these tools like the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, the Binding Mochi, stuff like that. 2 Iono, 2 Boss, 4 Nest Ball, 3 Rare Candy, 2 Ultra Ball, 2 Buddy-Buddy Poffin, 2 Earthen Vessel, 2 Counter Catcher, 2 Night Stretcher, 2 Terra Orb, and then like I said, 2 Capsule, 2 Binding Mochi, 3 of that Perilous Jungle, then 4 Fighting Energy, 2 Psychic Energy, so we have the option to be able to attack with the Latias EX and the Mimikyu and stuff like that. And then we also have Legacy Energy in here as well for our ace spec of choice, really helping out and kind of skewing that prize trade, so our opponent can't just go 2, 4, 6, win the game. They kind of have to go 2, 4, 5, and then 6, right? So really helpful kind of being able to just really stall our opponent at the game and really kind of just keep with that hit and run style. And like I said, opening up for a lot of options to attack with other Pokemon as well. Also got the 1/1 Hoothoot Noctowl line, just kind of for that one Jewel Seeker turn, be able to find that key owner, maybe that key boss we might need, because it's very easy to have that Jewel Seeker ability online as we're attacking with Flygon EX pretty much the entire game. So really like this deck, so let's jump right in to that gameplay. Already here at that Flygon EX gameplay here. At the coin flip, we do end up losing the coin flip. We do really want to be going first most of the time so we can get our Trapinch into Vibrava or into Flygon and kind of just start getting things set up. We're going to get a Trapinch and a Latias here to kind of start us off, which isn't too bad. We're going to start off with the Latias here in the active spot and then put the Trapinch on the bench. The reason I start with the Latias is because I want to be able to try to just go Rare Candy into Flygon next turn, maybe Iono myself into an Energy or something of that nature, and then start kind of getting everything set up. Our opponent here has a Fezandipiti in the active spot. Get that EV down, Buddy-Buddy Poffin. I've been seeing a lot more EV decks. People have been getting kind of crazy with their cooked up EV deck lists. I've seen just them playing Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon all in the same deck. I've seen just the Flareon deck that did well in the Champions League with Fuecoco or Osaka, whichever one it was. And I've also seen like Umbreon Espeon decks. I've seen Glaceon getting added into stuff. I've seen Leafeon stuff. I've been seeing people just really trying to make these evolutions work in any way they can. And I've actually lost to some of the kind of more crazy and kind of outlandish deck lists, we'll say. But our opponent here going to get the Hootoots down, the Fan Rotom. Going to be able to use that Fan Call, get some stuff kind of out onto the field here. Going to get that Water Energy attached to the Eevee. So maybe we're looking at maybe a Vaporeon or maybe a Glaceon type dial deck. We're not too sure. Considering the fact they all use different types of energy. We're going to get a Brute Bonnet here, and then we're going to go Buddy-Buddy Poffin and Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. Buddy-Buddy going to get Mimikyu and that Trapinch. Ancient Booster Energy Capsule to the Brute Bonnet, and then we're going to retreat into the Mimikyu. And I was going to poison, but it doesn't really make sense to. So now next turn, I can just go Rare Candy into Flygon, and then Iono, and kind of go that route. Is definitely going to be pretty helpful. It's kind of like now we're in a position where, okay, we got the Mimikyu set up. We can try to find the Pecharunt to get the poison stuff rolling. We got the Brute Bonnet. We got the free retreating going on with the Latias. And we have the answer in hand, right, for Rare Candy Flygon. And then we just like rip the Iono, see a nice fresh 6 cards, and disrupt our opponent depending on what they do as well. So kind of in a very interesting spot here. Our opponent going to play Arven. Gonna grab Ultra Ball and that Sparkling Crystal. Sparkling Crystal does tend to be the A-spec of choice in kind of just any evolution deck, it really seems like. So our opponent gonna use Ultra Ball here. Gonna discard 2 cards from their hand and then find themselves just any one Pokemon they want. And this would probably be able to tell us kind of what they're cooking up and kind of going from there. And I'm pretty excited to see it. Like I said, I've been playing even just kind of different evolution decks on my own, not only for just like content and stuff, just because I like the evolutions. I have an evolution poster right there. It's right there. I have an evolution poster right there behind me. And now we see the Umbreon EX come in. Now, Umbreon EX is quite interesting in actually what it does. I actually had to read it at some point during this game because I kind of like was not familiar with what it did. But actually a severely underrated card, I feel like. So our opponent here gonna just have kind of every piece they really need. Gonna have the Sparkling Crystal on the Umbreon. Double energy attack. They're going to have 2 energy on that. Rescue board out of the Fezandipiti into the Umbreon, into that Moon Mirage. 160 damage. And then your opponent's active Pokemon is now Confused. So 160 and then Confusion on top of that. Really solid into some of the kind of bigger beat stick decks like Raging Bolt or Miraidon or Charizard and stuff like that to really kind of just disrupt our opponent. So we're going to actually here in a pretty interesting position. We're going to poison our opponent here before we switch into that Mimikyu, and we're ended up finding just no energy. We can't find any energy here, unfortunately, but I do have the Pecharunt, so I could retreat into the Pecharunt to get some nice extra poison damage onto it, and then I end up putting the Perilous Jungle into play, but it doesn't actually do anything, because Umbreon's Dark-type Pokemon, unfortunately. But we end up attaching the Binding Mochi to our Flygon EX, and then we just pass to our opponent here. So we're kind of whiffing on that energy, but not too big of a deal. That's why we kind of play the Pecharunt. We got all these access. We're kind of playing that like hit and run style type deck, but we also are able to kind of like stall and just really accrue poison damage on our opponent's Pokemon, which is pretty helpful. And if they end up taking the knockout on the Pecharunt, gonna put us at a 6-5 split. It's not too big of a deal because we're kind of in a position then where we have access to Counter Catcher and kind of all those different pieces that our Ono does more damage, or to their hand, does more damage to their hand, which is pretty nice. So we're going to see that Moon Mirage take the knockout on our Pecharunt here, and then we're going to draw for turn. We get ourselves right into the fighting energy, which is kind of crazy, and then we're just going to Toxic Powder, get everything poisoned up again so we can do some more damage, And I'm like, you know what? Terra Orb here. Gonna grab ourselves another Binding Mochi. And I'm like, okay, Terra Orb, just try to thin the deck a little bit more. And I end up grabbing another Flygon. Like I said, I just wanted to thin the deck, try to get as much stuff out as possible. I could have grabbed something else besides that Terra Orb, but I didn't really feel like I needed it right now. I could have grabbed maybe like Ultra Ball to get the Vibrava or something. But we kind of want to keep the Mochi in hand and the boss, and there's nothing else for me to really grab at that moment. I guess I could have grabbed Counter Catcher to pull up maybe the Flygon, or the Fezandipiti, sorry, to knock out with our Flygon. But I don't know. We're kind of in this position now where we're just kind of doing the hit and run thing. We have Mimikyu in the active spot. They can't really deal with it right now. The Umbreon can't do any damage to it. They have to attack with like their Eevee or something. Fezandipiti can't do any damage to it. They're in a position where maybe they have to attack with their Fan Rotom. Which if that's the case, then okay, you take the knockout on the Fan Rotom, but then I follow up, and then I take a knockout on something else, and we're kind of in an interesting spot, right? So our opponent here is going to play an Iono, getting us into Vibrava, another Brute Bonnet, Boss, Counter Catcher, and Double Candy. Pretty solid hand for us. Now we got Counter Catcher, so we can kind of pull up the Fezandipiti, take the knockout, and then maybe just go Boss, pull up the Umbreon, and then take the knockout on that. We see the Terra Orb come out for our opponent here, playing Espeon EX in this deck as well. This is a combination I have not seen at all, but so far it seems pretty disruptive. Got the Moomirage, like I said, with that confusion. Not too sure what Espeon does. I think I actually have to read that at some point later on in this game as well to kind of know what it does. I think my opponent's trying to hope that I'll attack with Mimikyu, but I end up just never attacking with it. So we just go Terra Orb, Binding Mochi again, and I go, okay, we're going to put the Brute Bonnet down, Terra Orb, grab myself the Flygon here, Rare Candy into another Flygon, attach the Binding Mochi to that Flygon, and then I'm like, all right, not too big of a deal. We can still Counter Catcher, like I said, we can Counter Catcher and then pull up maybe that Fezandipiti EX just have to flip the script, so they can't really do anything there. So we're going to Toxic Powder potentially, but I'm like, oh, wait, do I really need to? And I end up checking the weakness on the Espeon just to make sure, and I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, we just pulled the Fezandipiti, take the 2 prize knockout, Reversing Storm, go back into the Mimikyu, take 2 prizes, puts us at a 4-5 split, and then we're in a position where poison damage pretty much just takes care of the Umbreon with a Pecharunt. We can also just kind of get into a point where, like, Reversing Storm will take the knockout, and we're going to be up 2 prizes on that. They're trying to set up the Espeon in the back. We're kind of in a pretty solid position, it seems like. We got everything kind of set up. We got the second Flygon ready to go as well if they KO the first one. Really just taking control of this match right now. Our opponent still has yet to use any sort of Noctowls. Right there, we're going to see their first Noctowl. Use that Jewel Seeker ability. Very powerful. Once during your turn, being able to just, if you evolve the Noctowl from your hand onto a Hoothoot, you're able to just go look for 2 trainer cards. So probably going to be looking at something maybe like an Iono or maybe like a Boss to pull up something, take a knockout. Maybe we're looking at like Boss, pull up the Latias, take 2 prizes or something and go that route. But our opponent goes Defiance Band and then Area Zero Under Depths to kind of just maybe flood the board with some more stuff. Maybe they're playing like a Terapagos package in there with like Grass Trumpet or something. People have been getting quite crazy with their Evolutions deck, like I've said, and I am also very guilty of this. So our opponent here going to use that Buddy-Buddy Poffin, going to be able to just kind of shuffle the deck up. I thought maybe trying to thin it out, but maybe just nothing they wanted in there. We're in a position now, too, like I said, we also now have access to another Trapinch. If we can get another Trapinch in play, we can get another Vibrava out, and then maybe try to evolve that into a Flygon. We're pretty set up. Our opponent here going to boss his orders, though, taking care of that Brute Bonnet. Now, what they could have done is they could have pulled up the Latias and then taken the knockout on that instead, which probably would have been a lot better. But I think they really just don't want to get poisoned, and they're kind of thinking of that as an option. But I already have a Brute Bonnet with the Ancient Boost Energy Capsule. So even if they would have taken care of the Latias EX, it really wouldn't have mattered because we are getting Earthen Vessel here. We're able to just kind of find some more energy, so we're able to retreat, attach the fighting energy to the Flygon, play the jungle, just completely get the Area Zero Under Depths out of there. Reversing Storm, going into the Mimikyu, taking 2 prize knockout here. Going to be able to go to a 2-4 split. Like I said, even if they KO the Latias, it puts us at like, you know, a 2-3 split, but then we're still behind, or yeah, so we're kind of behind. We can pull up and Counter Catcher maybe the Espeon, take care of that. we're kind of in a really demanding lead right now. We really have control of this game, and just kind of having access to just about everything, having 2 attackers ready, having the poison package going, having the Mimikyu, so they can't really take a knockout, and our opponent does see that, and they end up conceding there. Really being able to showcase, like I said, that kind of hit and run style of this Flygon deck. Beep really kind of showcased that flexibility in this deck list, and Flygon's definitely a card that I wish saw more play, especially because it's so close to my heart from when playing Ruby as a kid, and I really just like Flygon as a Pokemon, and I think the card is really underrated. But let's jump right in to that outro. Alright, let's get you off for today's video. Once again, huge shout out to Beep for actually providing the deck list for us to use in today's video, and make sure to put the deck list that I played in today's video in the description below, ready for copy paste into TCG Live. And of course, if you enjoy the content I've been making stuff for here on the channel, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And of course, a huge shout out to all of my great, awesome channel members that you see here. They support the channel even further by joining the trainer club here on the Mega Blitz YouTube channel. But that's going to do it all for today. So I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!